Hello everyone and welcome to the content patch for November 5th, 2012. Who the fuck am I, might you ask? That's actually a really good question. My name is Zook and I work for TotalBiscuit. I do a bunch of shit. He's plugged me numerous times on this channel, so I'm sure a lot of you, or at least some of you, know what it is that I do or have heard about me. So I'm gonna be bringing you content patch today, since TotalBiscuit is currently locked in my basement, unable to provide you with content. Now he's actually in Dallas, casting MLG. It was nigh impossible to get a video done over the weekend, so it has been tasked to me to bring you the latest and greatest in gaming news just for today. Starting tomorrow, he's back in action, bringing you his own videos, his own views, his opinions, in his familiar voice. So do not panic, everything is fine. This is just gonna be a one-time thing, most likely. So I'm gonna do my best to be as professional as I can, although I oftentimes have a very hard time doing that, as it is not my profession to talk about video games on the internet. But hey, there's a first time for everything. Now before I start, I'm just gonna shamelessly plug my own channel right now, because you gotta do what you gotta do. So if you want to visit my channel, click on the screen right now and you'll see what I do. It's not really gaming related, but it's still cool and people seem to dig it. So go ahead and visit my channel and subscribe and all that shiz if you want. So now let's get it on, boys. Let's move on with the news and see what is up. To start off, a member of the band Cypress Hill loses a $250 million lawsuit against Take-Two's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. A Castle Wolfenstein movie is apparently on its way. Former GameStop vice president pleads guilty of a $2 million embezzlement scheme. A Hotline Miami dev talks about piracy yet again. And Tomb Raider trailer gets called torture porn. As appealing as that sounds, we'll see what that's about in a second. Alright, let's start off with this one. A member of the band Cypress Hill, named Michael Shag Washington, sued Take-Two, the creators of Grand Theft Auto, for the outrageous and ridiculous sum of $250 million, because he considers that a character called CJ, present in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, looks like him. He considers that Take-Two exploited his image, and the presence of this character damages his reputation and public image. Who is this guy, you may ask? That's a very good question, because this guy is just a backup singer and a model for the group, so he's not even one of the main ones. I'm pretty freaking sure that nobody knows who this guy is. And yet, he had the audacity to sue Take-Two for $250 million. Now, the judges kind of shared my opinion, and they ruled in favor of Take-Two, obviously, because their defense was the First Amendment-based transformative use defense. Basically, you take materials that are protected or, you know, whatever, and you give them new character and purpose, and so the use is transformative, and therefore you can't sue them for exploiting your image. Now, there was a trial recently as well that was brought up during this one, the No Doubt trial, where Gwen Stefani sued over the presence of her members, or her members' avatars, in Band Hero it was. And apparently she was performing Honky Tonk Woman by Rolling Stones in a male voice. And she got really upset because, I mean, if you read the article, the arguments are absolutely ridiculous. This is the worst of the worst kind of entitlement that you get to see. Worse than the shit we deal with in YouTube comments. Worse than the people that get offended over something completely harmless. She got offended over this. So anyway, the trial was settled, her trial. But this guy's trial, he couldn't prove that the character called CJ was him. I mean, I looked at the side-by-side pictures. It looks nothing like him. And that's exactly what the judge said. The direct quote is, "Plaintiff is relying entirely on CJ's physical appearance in the game, but that appearance is so generic that it necessarily includes hundreds of other black males." And this is true. If you look at the guy, you can think of like 5 different actors that you've seen in movies or series that look like this guy. So it was kind of ridiculous in my opinion, but hey, my opinion doesn't matter here, does it? So yes, he lost the trial, but I mean, the guy, you know, he could have easily asked for, let's say, $1 million or $2 million. But $250 million, that's like asking for more than 60% of the sales of the entire game or something. I'm pretty sure that the game sold for around, or like the total of the sales was around 400 million something. So you're asking for more than half Are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, how much do you have to smoke to ask for that much in a trial? It's out of this world. I don't think that... I think he must have been trolling, because nobody would ever expect to get that kind of money from a video game company. What are you, insane? Anyway. So yes, the unpublished decision from this Wednesday, is as follows. The court, in no doubt, concluded that the defendant's literal depictions of the plaintiffs were not transformative because the No Doubt avatars perform rock songs, the same activity by which the band achieved and maintained its fame. Nothing in the video game transforms the avatars into anything other than exact depictions of No Doubt's members doing exactly what they do as celebrities. Here, however, Washington has presented no evidence demonstrating that the plot or characters of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas have any relevance to his life or his purported fame. Basically, his only argument was that he met with the developers in 2003, and they had his picture, and he was talking to them about his background in gangs, or his former background in gangs, etc., etc. And this was the only proof he had, and it wasn't conclusive enough. Definitely not. So he couldn't prove anything. Thank God, because I swear, if this guy got $250 million for this kind of crappy ass trial, it just wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be. So yeah, let's move on. Next up, a Castle Wolfenstein movie is apparently on its way, or as the title of the article says, back on track. Now that's quite interesting for a couple of reasons. First off, because it's a movie based off a game, so that's kind of bad news from the start. And secondly, because this has been on standby for about 5 years. Basically, this movie was announced back in 2007 at QuakeCon, and a couple of months after the announcement, there was a writer's strike, so the movie was put on hold. The movie is supposed to be directed by a guy called Roger Avery. Now, Roger Avery was nominated, and he actually won an Academy Award for co-writing Pulp Fiction along with Quentin Tarantino. So you would think he's a pretty big news and a hotshot. Well, not really, because that's basically the only prize he ever got, the only cookie he ever received. Other works include, Silent Hill and Beowulf, which weren't absolutely terrible, but they weren't like the best ever either. The producer for the movie is gonna be a guy called Samuel Hadida, who apparently worked on the Resident Evil movies. So Roger Avery is quite a controversial character because back in 2008 he was in a car accident. He had his wife and a friend in the car. He was drunk off his ass and he crashed into a telephone pole, or some sort of pole. I do believe it was a telephone one. He killed his friend, the friend died, and he injured his wife, and he was arrested for drunk driving and vehicular manslaughter, obviously. And initially he pleaded not guilty, but he was arrested and released on $50,000 worth of bail, and then later on apologized for the accident and admitted to having been dead drunk, and everything was eventually settled. He was sentenced and everything was fine, if you can even say that, like a guy died, but yeah, whatever. So yeah, this movie is apparently gonna get done. What is it about? It's about a US Army captain and a British special agent on a top secret mission to Castle Wolfenstein. Apparently Hitler is paying, yes, Hitler, that's what I said, is paying a visit to the castle to unleash his new weapon and show it off to the Nazis. And these two guys have to fight the SS troops and destroy the weapon so that Hitler can't conquer the world. Kind of a typical scenario, sounds kind of cliche. I think it's been done before, much too much, but I guess it ties to the story, so you can't really do much about that. Now, the last movie that ID Software gave the okay on was Doom, which I'm sure most of you have seen. It received abysmal reviews. It was the worst shit ever. On IMDb, it's actually rated 5.1, which isn't that bad compared to other things I've seen, other monstrous creations I've seen. But everywhere else, it's under 3 out of 10. So people really hated it badly. The movie was directed by a guy called Andrei Bartkowiak, who is credited for directing Cradle to the Grave, Exit Wounds, and Romeo Must Die. Basically, all of these movies are kind of like second-rate beat-em-ups with Steven Seagal and Jet Li. Nothing really tied to video games, nothing really tied to sci-fi, so I don't know what the hell he was doing directing this movie. And I also don't know what Roger Avery is doing directing this movie. Well, if he manages to inject any sort of Tarantino style into the movie, I guess that'll be a plus. But other than that, I don't see this being a very successful production. And I wish people would stop making movies after video games because it's just history repeating itself. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Former GameStop vice president pleads guilty to a $2 million embezzlement scheme. So what does this jerk-off do? His name is Chris Oliveira. He was the vice president of corporate communications and public affairs for GameStop. Between 2009 and 2011, he repeatedly, or better said regularly, sent payments to a company based in Nevada called Cloud Communications LLC and its representative called Jennifer Miller. This was supposed to be some sort of PR agency. Well, that's all fine and well, but I guess someone at GameStop decided to check up on the company and realized that it does not exist. It is completely fictitious. So GameStop got really suspicious and they brought in the feds and his whole operation got busted. And he basically admitted to being guilty from the start, like there was no turning back from something like this. And he is risking currently a $250,000 fine and up to 20 years in prison for one count of mail fraud. What can I say about this? I mean, the guy's a vice president. It's still not good enough. You still gotta steal, especially from a brick and mortar that's like struggling enough as it is. I don't even know. I'm not gonna talk about this because I just get pissed off when I hear stuff like this. So let's move on. Hotline Miami dev talks about piracy yet again. Now, if you remember last week, there was this whole deal with Jonathan Soderstrom assisting Pirate Bay users with a better patched version of his game so that even if they were illegally downloading the game, it would still be up to his standards of quality. That got a lot of attention. Every website out there kind of turned their eyes towards this because it's highly unusual for a game company or a developer to collaborate with pirates in such a way. Most of the time people are doing everything in their power to eradicate this trend of pirating games. But this guy was totally chill about it, and that sparked a lot of interest, and in the end it was a lot of publicity. So this week, there's another thing going on. He talks with VG247 in an upcoming interview, where he basically says that, I'm not making games to make money. I do want to make money, but it's not my major intention with my creativity. I just like expressing myself, making cool stuff, and like, if you don't want to pay for the game or want to play it anyway, I'm not going to stop people from doing that. That's kind of interesting because as a games developer saying that, you're basically saying that pirating is cool, which again is something that most developers would never in a million years say, I think. He continued saying, I prefer if they play a version of the game that isn't bugged out so they get a good impression of it. I don't want people to pirate the game or anything like that, but I know it's just an issue and there's nothing we can do about it. I'm not sure I want to do anything about it, but I just want people to enjoy the game. So again, he's further reinforcing the concept that pirating is okay. At this point, I'm leaning towards believing that this is actually a marketing move because him being so kind to pirates basically makes pirates be on his side and sort of pity buy the game at some point or pity buy his future game because pirates will remember like, oh, this guy was really cool with us and he understands that we don't have any money or we're cheap asses and it's okay. So, you know, I'm gonna support him and I'm gonna buy him. So he's actually trying to gather potential sales. His last quote was, I want to make enough money to make bigger games, and that's probably not something I'm able to do if I have to get a job, and of course I want to be able to pay rent and buy food from what I do. So we're looking to make another game as soon as possible, and hopefully it'll turn out as good as Hotline Miami. So he is interested in money, you know, just as we thought. It's not just the fact that he wants people to play his game. He is interested in money, and he is getting pirates to like him. And that's quite important considering how many people pirate games out there. Hell, I used to do it up until a year ago myself, so, you know. It's an interesting scheme. Now, if you remember back in June, there was a small scandal surrounding Tomb Raider, particularly its trailer, which depicted Lara Croft getting pinned to a wall by a guy. The guy proceeded to grope her, and then she had to kill him to protect herself. Now, this scene was interpreted as an attempted rape by a lot of people, and it caused quite a lot of controversy because, as we all know, rape is not really the lightest of themes to be used, especially within video games, which are played by a lot of kids. A couple of days ago, Rihanna Pratchett, who is a scriptwriter and also a narrative designer for the game, came out and said, "It was very unfortunate things got the way they did. I wasn't happy about it. It took away from what we were really doing with that scene. The scene is very much about what it means to take a human life. It's about Lara's reactions rather than the guy's actions, which are absolutely what you see in the trailer, and never go further than that." Apparently, she condemns people interpreting it as a rape scene, but she does admit that maybe they should have done it differently. She's not thinking, "Oh my god, I was almost raped." She's thinking, "Oh my god, I've just taken a human life." It's unfortunate that if you have a female protagonist and male antagonists, and they're coming after her, people see that vibe. And of course, it's natural. She also addresses another issue in this particular trailer, which is the amount of screams, shrieks, and grunts that Lara makes. Apparently, in a 3-minute trailer, she manages to shriek, grunt, yelp, and sob 23 times, which is excessive to say the least. Lara is supposed to be the main hero, and from what I gather, this newest iteration of Tomb Raider focuses on the earlier stages, her time of vulnerability, not her time of shooting dinosaurs in the face. So she's trying to be made to look a bit more human, but Rihanna's definitely thinking that, "Personally, I could do with less of it," she claims. I'm not sure what the thinking behind having quite so much is. And I do agree, I mean, if you watch the trailer, there is a lot of sighing and sobbing and very girly noises. I mean, I get it, they were trying to go for the vulnerability fact, but in the end, Lara Croft is still a hero, and she should be seen as such, and in fact, she is basically the only female hero, like true hero, in games right now. Pratchett says, "I know people are concerned we're making her weaker, but you don't plop out as a badass. It's something that builds up. We wanted to tell that origin story because we felt it's a powerful experience and one that isn't really explored in games. It can be a little jarring seeing her crying and being vulnerable because we haven't seen this Lara before. We're taking a risk making her appear scared and doubt herself, but that's where bravery comes from. You can't have bravery without fear, and fear is a dangerous thing to show in games because we're so used to capable characters who can do everything." It's a noble attempt by the developers to show Lara in this position, especially since up until now Lara has been the big-boobed, slutty-looking, badass bitch, kinda. So they're giving her a more human face, but integrating a sexual assault scene within the confines of this story is maybe wasn't the best decision because we all know how people interpret things and what they get offended of and by, and that was clearly shown in people's reactions to this trailer. The people who made the trailer are basically to blame because they took that scene out of context. They thought it was a wise way to try and sell a game because, as we all know, sex does sell, but unfortunately it's not the right kind of sex. And Rihanna Pratchett is definitely concerned about the way the game is being sold or attempted to be sold. Alright, that's gonna be it. Thanks everyone for watching today's content patch. My name has been Zook, and if you're still interested in checking out my channel, please click the link in the description or scroll to the beginning of the video where there's an annotation. You might have noticed that we've shortened the show down to only 5 articles. That was actually my idea, so we're still working on implementing a lot of people's suggestions. I do believe 5 articles is a better choice than 6, as it allows John a bit more room to inject his personality into the show, which is why people come here in the first place. So not to worry, we're definitely listening to people's suggestions. If you do have some constructive criticism and suggestions, please feel free to visit this subreddit, where it's just easier to sort through comments than on YouTube. So yeah, again, John will be back tomorrow bringing you content patch and other videos in his usual style. I do hope that I wasn't too boring for everyone, and I did do my best, but again, this is not my area of expertise. So thanks again for watching, and don't be too hard on me, and I'll see you guys around. Bye bye, have a good week.